Well, we have our first repeat guest, Will Degas of Findaway. Findaway, as many people know, is I was about to say a competitor to ACX, but you know what? They're their own thing. They are a creator and a distributor of audiobooks, and Will's got some pretty exciting stuff to tell us about. But
You
Will,
just
tell
froze
me
up,
again
Nick.
your exact designation there. Like what is
It
your
looks like Nick's
kingdom
having
over at
problems
Findaway?
too.
No, you're
Yeah.
froze up.
Well, I'm seeing Nick just fine, so I'm gonna just roll on here. My name is Will. I'm head of Findaway Voices, so I run the Findaway Voices division at Findaway. We've got about 6 different business lines at Findaway, and Findaway has been around for about 15 years. So even though Findaway Voices is relatively new, we've been around a little more than 4 years now. We're backed by a bigger company. We're backed by more resources and a lot more scale and efficiencies than just the team that you see on Findaway Voices. So we're a bigger operation, not a huge operation. We're talking about 150, 160 people out of Northeast Ohio. Still a pretty small gang doing big stuff there at Findaway.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm not sure.
I think we may have lost Wayne.
Yeah, I know. Hey, everybody out there. I'm taking control. This is mine now until he pops back on. I see we are still live, it says, so I'm going to just keep yammering. Why don't we jump straight into the big news? The reason we're having Will on here a second time is because something very new and exciting is happening at Findaway, and y'all are going to be some of the first people to hear about it.
Yeah, I'm so excited about this. Thank you for having me on a second time. I didn't realize I was the first repeat guest in all of history for the Talk Right podcast. I'm gonna wear that as a badge of honor here. This is awesome. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to share this with people because we've been working on this so hard for almost an entire year now, and it's so close to going out. It's not live yet, but I'm going to give you guys a peek of what it is. And so basically, Findaway Voices, we've been around for about 4 years. We've made books the same way that we've always made them since the day we launched to today. We always make books the same way, and it's a great process for newbies. For beginners, for somebody who's never made an audiobook before. We hold your hand through the process. You have white glove service. You have an account rep that is with you all the way from auditioning to final payment, and then making sure that you have a great product from end to end. And that has served us really well. It's brought a lot of people into the audiobook market. But we've heard a lot of feedback over the years that if you really know what you're doing, that kind of slows you down. And maybe that there's a better way to do that and a little bit more fun in the discoverability piece. So we are opening up a whole new way to make audiobooks on Findaway Voices. We're calling it Findaway Voices Marketplace. And this is a place where an author is going to be able to search for narrators themselves. A narrator is going to be able to promote themselves with public links and profiles that are beautiful. If you're a narrator, you should be super excited about this, because if you don't have a website of your own, this could absolutely be like a really great professional landing page for your narration business. It's really beautiful, full featured, lots of control, composability over how you present yourself. And then we've built a whole suite of tools to help an audiobook go flawlessly from end to end, from auditioning a narrator at the very beginning all the way till final approval. We've taken everything that we've learned from this white glove service that we've done all these years, and we've baked it into software so that you can run through a production all on your own. And the coolest part is we're doing all of that and we're giving it away for free. You're still gonna have to pay the narrator to record the book, obviously, but to use the tools, it's completely free. We want to be the hub of trust and productions in the whole audiobook space, and we're setting up some really, really cool tools to do that. So that's the overview, Nick. I know we're gonna dive deep in a whole lot of stuff. I think this is news to you too. Any big reactions or questions right off the bat?
I think it's fantastic. I mean, it was pretty rudimentary before in terms of what I was all excited when Findaway first came around, and I dumped everything on there, and same way I think I dumped everything on Penguin Random House's Ahab, and that was it.
This is a huge step forward. Huge step forward, especially for narrators. This is going to be, I mean, we're talking really full featured landing pages of all of your samples. You get your headshot, your banner image, but then also we've done a cool little thing of a vocal introduction, right? So separate from your work samples, how about instead of just text, we'll give you the mic and you introduce yourself and say, hey, I'm Nick Sullivan, and this is my genre, and this is why I'm going to be great for your book, and this is my personality, and just, take a minute to introduce yourself through their ears instead of their eyes, because that is your native format. And it's crazy that there's no other platform for narrators out there that put that front and center.
Surprised why that's not a feature in some other places. So that's a
great
idea.
We've done we've talked to narrators. We've done a ton of research on what do you want, how can you market yourself better, and we've poured all of that into this new platform. It's really great. I'm excited for people to see it.
Cool. Let me quickly ask about that landing page. Do you'll allow social links to outside?
Yep.
Facebook and Twitter and all that?
Yes.
What form of communication do you have there? Do you have its own message thing, or do you?
Yeah, things will mostly run through email. Things will mostly run through email, but through a private relay on our side. So it's not.
So you do have some kind of a.
We'll relay the messages. Yeah, so it's not just you putting your email out there, because that's trouble, right?
But you'll get a notification that there's an email, or you're going to port it to us.
You'll get a notification that there's a new comment or a message for you
cool.
in that way. And your profile is, you can customize the slug, the URL. So findawayvoices.com/Nick Sullivan. It can look obviously like your URL, and you can claim that and have some customization there too.
And then this is a question that, not just for narrators, but probably a question to be asked by authors who have established narrators that they're using.
Mm-hmm.
Are you set up with this? Is the payment done through you? Are you the middleman? And if so, do you have connections with a SAG-AFTRA paymaster for veteran narrators to be able to?
Yeah, great question. So with the normal way that we've done productions from the start, we always handle payments. We are always sitting in the middle. But Marketplace is a little bit more of a free zone, where we want to be a little less heavy-handed there. So it's going to be optional for us to handle payments, and there's going to be a small fee if you choose to have us do that, because credit cards charge you 2.9 plus 30%, or 2.9% plus 30 cents just to run a credit card. And if we're processing payments to the narrator, we got to put tax forms together and do 1099 MISCs at the end of the year, all this stuff. We just need a little bit just to cover that. We're not trying to make a whole bunch of money off this. It's just minimal fees, but it'll be optional if you want the payment to run through us. If you don't, there'll be options on each side to say, mark the payment as sent. The narrator will mark the payment as received. That'll unlock the project and make sure that both sides are moving along. So there will be an option to have payment run through us, but it won't be required.
Got it. So that if someone did want to use a paymaster to make it a union job, they could handle that separately.
Yeah, we work with SAG. Yep, we work with SAG today, and we have all those.
And you
those
can send it off
up
to Elgin or whoever. Okay,
yes.
Cool. I still don't see Wayne back, so I'm going to continue my overlordship.
I miss him, but you're such a good question asker. I feel like I'm in good hands still.
I talk too much. That's the thing, and this sort of works out for me. So if you're not hand-holding as much as Findaway Voices, and you're letting this be, so my next question is, what kind of gatekeeping do you have to avoid people plugging in a snowball into and recording in the kitchen and sending what do you have any kind of?
There is inherently going to be a little bit more risk on the author's side when you're doing a production this way, but we have trust as a core pillar of something that we're trying to keep in mind with every decision we're making with Marketplace. So there's a couple of features specifically for that. There's going to be a couple levels of verified checkmark badges for a narrator. So if you've gone through all of the tax forms, verified your identity, made sure that your TIN has validated with the IRS, and I know who you are, and I know I can pay you. You've gone through a step that deserves a little check mark, right? So it's not just I signed up and I put a fake name in there and I'm shady. So if you go through all that effort, you get a little check mark. If you've worked with us in the past, if you've done a production and have delivered a quality production for Findaway, any division at Findaway in the past, you're going to get a really solid green check mark that says you are Findaway endorsed and that we have had a successful production run through Findaway with you before. That's going to give people an extra layer of trust, right? So we're not stopping the old way of doing productions, and we're going to keep that going. So that's another way for people to get those green check marks. We're also going to, this isn't at launch, but this is shortly after, we're going to be adding reviews and ratings on both sides. We'll have the narrator rate the author and the author rate the narrator. So over time, we'll get some trust building and clear metrics around trust in that way too.
Yeah. But about the audio though, will you have some kind of software gatekeeping? I mean, do you have any way of determining the quality of the final mastered product? Because I imagine some of the different distributors have different requirements.
Yeah, we do. We have pretty strict requirements. They match up pretty closely with ACX because they're one of the strictest in the industry. We have a lot of checks that as you're uploading the files, if it doesn't meet that, we will kick it back right away.
That's what I was curious about. Okay.
And so somebody won't even be able to upload their like samples and auditions if it doesn't meet those minimum. Now it doesn't check everything because there's some things that are a little harder to check than others. But those generally we're able to catch, and we can even automatically fix some of them in the background. But
if there someone tosses AI generated Mike Monster book, it'll stop that.
We manually stop all the AI voices at time of distribution right now. So we don't allow anything with AI generation to come through Findaway Voices, and we listen to every title that's submitted, and we kick back the ones that are trying to do that. On Marketplace, it will be up to the author to know that the quality is not there, or that they're investing in some computer narration that won't be able to be distributed. So,
right.
If that's something that worries you, if that makes you nervous, we still have this other trusted production thing, the way that we've always done it in the past, and that's not going away or changing. This is just giving a lot more control to people who want to take on that risk and find the narrators directly.
Great. Well, we want to welcome Wayne back.
Welcome, Wayne.
Yes, I finally got here. Got the computer working. This thing, sometimes it just gets a wild hair up its butt and I can't get it to do anything. And then my phone wouldn't work. So anyway, hey, Will.
Hey, did you catch anything that we've been talking about, or should I break the news to you?
Yeah. Would you mind?
Yes.
Repeating just the big high point.
The big thing.
Yeah, I didn't hear that.
So we are building Findaway Voices Marketplace, which is a whole new way to make audiobooks on our platform. We want to be the center of the audiobook world, and we want a place for everyone to go to make audiobooks that doesn't serve a single retailer, that serves the entire audiobook industry. And that's where we sit. So we're making a whole bunch of tools that we're offering up for free for authors and narrators to connect and make audiobooks in new ways.
That sounds really, really cool.
Thanks.
That sounds like the way it should be, actually.
I think so too. So I'm making it happen.
And you will have the exact same distribution that already exists with Findaway. If the author so wishes.
Great question. So there's a hard line in my mind between production and distribution. So all of this is on the making the audiobook side. Once you come out the end of that with a finished audiobook, it's the same distribution system we've always had. You just upload it, you choose your distributors, nothing's changed on that side. This is just helping you make a book in an easier way, as opposed to doing it on your own, going to ACX, using our production services. Like, this is just another option, and I think one of the best options in the whole industry. But once you have that finished audiobook, you can do anything you want with it. Actually, that's a good point. That leads to another thing about our terms here. When you produce a book on Findaway Voices Marketplace, you do not have to distribute it with Findaway Voices. Like, one of our core tenets here is like, be really friendly with terms, right? Like, you're not going to be the center of the audiobook market if you have an iron fist. Like, do the right thing, be generous with terms. You could make a book on Findaway Voices Marketplace and take it exclusive somewhere else and not even use us at all. And we're totally okay with that. We just want to be the best place to make a book. And we hope that you'll choose to distribute with us, but we're not going to force it in like terms and conditions and stuff.
But I will point out, and correct me if I'm wrong, currently the only way to be on Chirp is through Findaway.
Findaway has an exclusive distribution arrangement with Chirp. Yeah, Findaway Voices is not the only way to get to Chirp, right? If you're or Penguin Random House,
but for a self-published author,
that's
Findaway
right. That's right. Findaway has other partnerships and other direct integration channels that outside of Findaway Voices. But yeah, Findaway, including Findaway Voices, has an exclusive distribution agreement with Chirp. So if the book is getting to Chirp, it's coming through us at some point.
Got it.
Yeah.
Wayne, do you got any questions here?
I'm still very gently trying to navigate over to YouTube to see if there's any questions from the audience.
I'll let you carefully do that, and I'm going to ask a question. So, what do you foresee, Will? Because ACX, they're having some issues, but they've got a massive amount of work being done through there. So you can understand why they sometimes end up with long production times, which have improved lately, very much so. But I'm wondering, are you foreseeing if you get a rush of people coming in and they're not being handheld, does things have to get listened to?
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you have in place to deal with any potential?
Yeah, this is a great question. So let me start by talking, because we haven't talked tactically about how we're launching this yet, just that it's coming soon. We're launching it in 2 phases. So the first phase is we're just launching for narrators, and we're going to let them build up these public profiles and add a whole bunch more information than we've been collecting today. So when you sign up today, it's pretty bare bones. We get what we need and not much more, but we don't have enough information about the narrators to build this robust search and filtering of samples and dialects and types and genres that we want to with the narrators. So we have about 15,000 narrators signed up with us today. We're going to be getting all of them over the next couple months, upgrading their profiles to this new profile that will be able to be searched. So if you're a narrator, take note. You are one in a pool of 15,000 right now on voices. We're not going to get all 15,000 of them to get to this new profile. And when we open search for authors, you're going to be a much bigger fish in a much smaller pond. So don't sleep on this. This is a big opportunity. You want to jump on this and be one of the first to have a really great profile. I think this is really going to jumpstart some careers, which I'm really, really excited about. So after a couple months, we've got a critical mass of narrators, because I don't want to open the doors and have authors searching and getting very few results. I want a bunch of results, right? So once we get to that critical mass, then we're opening up the tools for everybody. And we think that that's going to be later this year, November, December-ish. So Marketplace to actually run a production through is going to be later this year, but the narrator stuff is really close. We're measuring weeks away on that one. I don't want to give a date because we're not quite confident enough in a date right now. But that's how that's going to go. Now, as far as the production timing, once you're actually engaging with a narrator, we see today, even with managed productions, depending on how fast the feedback loops are, can really balloon a production out. If the author is taking 2 days to give feedback and the narrator is taking 2 days to implement the feedback, and then the author's giving another 2 days to give feedback on that, it just balloons so fast. So the tighter you can keep the feedback loops, the faster you can move this. This is, again, with Marketplace, there's not going to be anybody from my team nudging the narrator, nudging the author. Hey, you got to give feedback. Hey, you got to listen to that feedback. You're on your own. With you and then the author and the narrator are on their own to manage that. But what we do have is some transparency in deliverability expectations versus timelines. So Nick, if you're my narrator and I'm hiring you and I say you have 6 weeks to get this done and we both agree on that, if you upload and get everything approved within 6 weeks, you got it done on time. Now, if we both agree on an extension, that's cool too. That sets the bar a little further out. But you as a narrator on the site will have public metrics about what percentage of time you deliver on time. So as long as you're setting reasonable expectations that everybody agrees on and sticking to those deadlines, that can be another way to make sure that as you're searching for a narrator, you see they meet their deadlines 100% of the time or 80+% of the time. This is a good buy for me versus 0% of the time or 10% of the time. This is all about elevating those trust metrics and believing that people need those insights to be able to make smart decisions.
That's good. Do you have something? I think ACX has renamed it. We used to just call it the first 15, which I think is extremely valuable when you're starting out.
Yeah.
And then becomes really annoying when you're doing book 20 in a series with the same rights holder, the same narrator, because you're having to master it. And it's a whole separate thing. But do you have something like that in place, or would you basically
that concept of
ask for an MP3 to listen to? Or
Well, the concept of first 15, just to define it for anybody who's listening and is not quite sure what that is, that's after you've signed the contract and you know you're going to make a book together, you do an extended sample that's generally about 15 minutes long. And this is where like all the subjective feedback goes into. This is where, Nick, when you're saying like it's valuable for the first book, but not the 20th book, like you got the characters by then. This is the point where if you're a new author, this is where you're giving feedback on, I need you to read it faster. I need you to read it slower. That scene needs to be sexier. This voice needs to be gruffer. Like all of those kind of subjective things need to come out in that first 15 minutes. Because if you give that feedback at the final stages, the narrator is looking at like going back and recording in the booth for like 20, 30 hours to read everything faster. Like you can't do it at that time. It's not fair to the narrator, and it's not fair to the process. So it's become an industry standard to do this first 15, and that's absolutely baked into our process. So that's going to be
cool.
That's going to be
a note to include all my characters in the first 15 minutes of the next book.
It is important that first 15 should not be the first 15 minutes of your book, unless that's where all the action is. But like you should have a really representative scene with a bunch of characters, do something complex, like really make the narrator like work through it, because that's going to bring out all of the things, all of the feedback that you're going to want to give a lot easier.
Or maybe create a written sample for the narrator to narrate that includes all the things that you're going to want.
Yeah, you can do something like that. The spirit of the first 15 is all of the subjective feedback comes out, and the narrator has to stay true to that in the rest of the recording. If you say, look, you got this accent all wrong at the end, and the narrator actually had it right in the extended sample, but then they did do the accent wrong in the rest of the book, they are going to have to go back and re-record that book. You got to be true to that first 15-minute sample. And that's actually one of the biggest pieces of advice I give to first-time authors and first-time narrators, which is like, you're going to be really excited to like get in the booth and get this whole thing recorded. Don't skip the seriousness and the time spent on this first 15 will it's one of the biggest indicators of whether a production is going to go good or bad is how much attention's paid on that first 15.
I'm going to actually do that with the next book, Nick. The first 15, I'll write something that will have all the characters, and it might just be you're reading their own bio in their voice.
that would actually work. You do them in character. Then I'll master it for you, and sure, why not? That's the only thing with ACX. You have to.
It's just going to be thrown away. Yeah.
What do you have anything in place? I know there's been an issue with people who are not the author claiming the rights to books, approaching narrators, getting them to record it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really know what the end game is. I've never understood. There was a news article about a guy who had only done like 4 books, and they were all like bare-chested bodice rippers. And all of a sudden he was approached to record Frank Herbert's Dune. And I'm like, didn't you get a hint when they came to you to do Dune? Okay. But he recorded a lot of Dune, and then it of course was just nonsense. But I don't know why they do that. Maybe you do.
Well, they're doing it for the royalties, right? Like I think most of.
But if it goes on sale for like 15 seconds, I don't know how much royalties they're going to get.
Well, I think enough of them have gotten missed that there's a game that they're playing there. And I think when you have the option for a $0 upfront royalty share, and you don't actually have to lay down your credit card to try to do that shady business, I think that's, it's something that people try. You don't have royalty share. We don't have a $0 upfront royalty share. And to be able to get that far in the process, you've got to validate your business tax ID or your social security number. You got to give us a whole bunch of information that we check out with some third-party vendors, and like make sure you are who you say you are. And we've collected some payment at that time. And like, it's tough to get that far in the process. I'm not going to say that like we won't be targeted by scammers. I hope that it's not bad, but like we're ready for it if it happens. I will say we also listen to every book before it gets distributed. We do a pretty extensive QA. We're listening to multiple chapters, and we're like looking at all the metadata and making sure doing some rights verification and stuff there too. So I'm not going to say we're going to be 100% because like scammers get pretty smart, right? And you always kind of feel like you're chasing them. We have been targeted by some scams, and we've quickly changed processes and built extra software to help us fix and find those things. But there is no claiming process on Findaway Voices like ACX, because we don't have an ebook side. Like you can't say that ebook is mine. And even then, like the claiming process is a little crazy. Of they just like any book that's unclaimed, you can claim. Like you don't actually claim ownership of it like in a meaningful way. Like when you're setting up your Google webmaster, it's like, hey, put this like meta tag in your HTML, or put this thing in your DNS registrar to prove that you have control of this thing. They're not even asking you like, hey, put this serial number in the last page of your book so that we can verify that you have access to it. It's just like pick anything from the catalog and it's yours. So anyway, long-winded way of saying we don't have the same claiming process. We don't have a $0 royalty share. I imagine there will be some fraud. We're ready for it. That's like what our team is all about, is catching that and building process to stop it as we find
cool.
it. Yeah.
All right. That good answer for me.
Yeah.
Wayne, anything from YouTube?
I just now signed on.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm going to jump to another question here.
Yeah.
Nick Harvey says better late than never. Sorry, I was diving. Rough life, Nick.
You were mentioning creating some software processes, and this brings me, I believe you said when we were talking before you came on, that you might, from all the books you've done, you've got a lot of sales data. And I know this is not a production question.
Yeah.
This is a distribution question. But something I think a lot of our author listeners would be interested in, because when you've got it with Audible, you don't really have any control over price.
Yeah, exactly.
But a lot of the other places you do have some control, and particularly with Chirp. Have you found that there is a sweet spot? Because you have to charge more for something that you've shelled out a lot of money to a narrator for. And the longer it is, the more you've got to charge. But is there a sweet spot where you're actually going to make more money selling it for less?
Yeah, this is a great question, Nick. Thank you for asking this. It feels like a softball, but I love it. I love it because it's one of the biggest questions that we get consistently from authors, which is, what should I price my book? Because exactly like you said, you don't have control of that on ACX. You don't get to set your price. You don't get to say what it's being sold for. So now all of a sudden you come to Findaway Voices and we're saying like, oh no, you actually you can have some predictable royalties based on what the price is. And nobody knows what the price should be. Is this too high? Is this too low? When Audible prices it to consumers, they're benefited by having the highest price possible. Like they want your book to look like it's 22, 23, 24 bucks because people are only paying 15 bucks for that credit. And the higher it looks like the book is in price, the better a deal that $15 credit looks, right? So that's like just some consumer psychology there. But when you're not in that credit model, what's the sweet spot? And we've built some tools to help with this. They've been out for 2 or 3 years now, actually, where we've taken a ton of sales data from a ton of books, not just from Findaway Voices, but like broader Findaway. We have over 500,000 books in the catalog at Findaway, with almost 600,000. And we have a ton of sales data, and we can see across genres, across lengths, what are the sweet spots for those books. There's not a sweet spot. There are a bunch of sweet spots depending on how long your book is and what genre it falls in. Some genres command a higher price than others. So for a long time, as soon as this has been on our site, where as soon as you've uploaded all your audio so that we know how long your book is, we take that information, we see the genre, and we spit out a recommended price for you. Nobody knows this yet. And sometimes there's these like Facebook groups that figure it out and leak it before we do. But we last week launched a big update to that tool, which I'm really excited about. So we reran the numbers. We got better data that I think will guide people a lot more smartly. And we've introduced some extra tools around that, which I'll talk about in a minute. But the core of it is you want to maximize your units and revenue, right? If you put your book too cheap, you might sell a ton of units, but you're missing out on each one of those. And if you price your book too high, you may never sell a unit. And then, we have our distribution fee is 20% of royalties earned. We want you to make as much as possible. Like it's not in our interest to make you go really cheap, and we don't get paid by the unit. We get paid by the dollar. So we want to help you find that sweet spot. And so we've just released a whole bunch of tools. Now, one thing, so pricing is something that like, it's the biggest lever you have in marketing, and we're always paying attention to it. And anytime somebody's like having a great month, we're reaching out to them saying like, hey, can we learn anything from what you did this month? Like, tell us what you did. And one thing that we saw an author experimenting on again and again and again, different authors, is this concept of launch pricing. Of I'm going to launch the book, and the first 30 days, I'm going to make it a little bit more expensive, and then I'm going to lower the price from then on. So I've got this big launch campaign. I've got a whole bunch of marketing and attention around it. I've got people who've been waiting to buy this. I'm going to launch it for, call it $18. And then after 30 days, I'm going to set it back to $12, and it's going to run from there. So what they were doing is they were setting alarms and like coming back to Findaway Voices and republishing after 30 days. And so now when you're setting up a new book on Findaway Voices, you're going to be presented with this option for launch pricing right away. Do you want a different price to apply for the first 30 days? Enter it in, and we'll take care of all the switch over and send the new prices everywhere that it needs to go after 30 days. So we're like, pricing is so important to the success of a book. And so we're really giving a whole bunch of tools. We're also going to, if you go to republish a book, like Nick, if you go in and edit one of your books and like add in this new award that you got for it or something like that, and you hit republish, and now your book's price is actually outside of our new range, we're actually going to do like a little pop-up and say, hey, our pricing recommendations have changed. We actually think you should be somewhere in this range. Here's where you are. Do you want to update that and push that change out too? So we're trying to be as proactive as possible in helping people find those sweet spots. Oop, you're on mute. Nick, you're on mute.
Oh, I thought I clicked on it. Can you check it without republishing? Can you take a peek at what it should be?
Oh yeah. You, like see what the price should be without republishing? Yeah, absolutely. Republishing just means we're taking the new metadata and we're pushing it out to all the partners. We can't do that every time you hit save, or else our partners would hate us. We'd be sending hundreds of thousands of metadata updates a day. They want to take the new product in its entirety. So we let you make all the changes you want, take a couple days, take a week, whatever it needs to be. And when you're ready for that to go out to retailers, that's what the republish means. So you can make all the changes you want until you hit republish. It's not, the retailers don't know about it.
Got it.
Yeah, great question.
Wayne, I'm going to let you take over while I kill this wasp.
Oh, be careful.
He's going to kill somebody.
There's a danger element to this podcast. I like it.
Oh, yeah. You mentioned that you don't have a solid date yet. Do you have a time frame for this new
It'll
tool?
be this year. It'll be this year. So the narrator.
Okay, so coming up in the next few months.
Yeah, the narrator part of it will be in the next couple of weeks. We're like really close to launching the narrator piece of it. And that's when the narrators will put more information in their profiles. They'll get their public links. The tools so that an author and a narrator can run through it together will be late this year.
And just in case some narrators are watching or will watch it later on YouTube, how do they go about signing up? Is there like a beta program?
We've already run a bunch of people through the beta program, so that's closed, and we got the feedback we needed to launch. So there's not an ongoing one. The best thing you can do is just sign up for Findaway Voices right now, and then you'll have a nice little upgrade your profile link when we launch. You could wait to sign up then, but to make sure you don't miss it, you might as well sign up now, and make sure you're following us on social and our email newsletter and stuff, so that you don't miss the announcement when it's time to go on the new profile.
Will we get an email if we are set up for email alerts from Findaway?
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. If you've opted into emails, you'll absolutely get an email on that.
Awesome.
And if you haven't opted into emails, the next time you log in, you'll see a big banner with a big button to upgrade your profile and stuff like that too. So, and it'll be all over social. And like I said, tell your friends, this is a good opportunity for narrators to like really stand out again in a pool. Because we're going to attract a lot of authors who are going to do a lot of searching those first couple months. And you're going to want a full featured profile.
No, this is definitely, if there are narrators listening, this is a ground floor situation. You want to get in on the ground floor.
Yes.
About where you were 10 years ago.
I have a note here. Oh, Chirp pre-orders. Just curious. Do you do them? Do you know if Chirp allows Let's say you've got a book and you know it's going to land on January 30th, and you've got all the files uploaded to Findaway in mid-December. Could you apply for a chirp in mid-January, knowing that they rarely put it in right away?
Yeah, well, before you answer that, will you be able to do real pre-orders? Like right now, I'm almost finished writing 2 books, one in each series, and Nick will be recording them in November. Yep. They're already on pre-order for ebook and paperback, but I can't do a pre-order for the audiobook until the file's actually done, recorded, uploaded, and approved. That's not a pre-order. That's sitting on a book that's ready to go.
Yeah. Pre-orders are an interesting topic because this is one of the spots where the audiobook industry really shows like it's lagging behind ebooks in a big way. The way that the audiobook retailers are set up, they cannot take metadata unless the audio is there. Like we cannot publish a book in our system unless the audio is there and ready to go. And you can't have placeholder audio either. So at that point, who's sitting on the audiobook very much? Like you just spent a ton of money to have it done. You've waited 6 weeks after the manuscript.
You want it out there. Yeah.
You want it out there. Now simultaneous release is a good strategy. And there are some people who sit on it for a week or two and do that pre-order. Pre-order support though, I mean, because of this, is pretty lacking in the audiobook space. I'll say your best option is Google Play right now. They're the ones with the biggest traction and the most universal app support that actually shows the book and lets people purchase it ahead of time. Apple even like they filter it out, like it won't show up in the search results until release day. And I believe Chirp does the same thing, but I have to check on that. I don't know specifically if they do pre-orders. I don't think they do, but that's a great question for Chirp. And the last time I was on here, Audrey was with me, and I could have lobbed that to her. I should have brought her back this time. That's a great question for them, and I also don't know if you can apply for a Chirp deal on a book that has not been released yet, though I would think the answer would be yes, because I know the book is in their data feed. I know that Chirp has access to all of the audio art and metadata through our API when you've published the book, even if they're not choosing to sell it yet. So it should show up in the search dropdown when you're selecting the book in the picker, and they should be able to see it. So if you wanted to do that, I would imagine it'd be okay, but that's really a better question for Chirp to answer than me.
Well, and the idea in my head is that you would want the Chirp deal if you're applying for the Chirp to coincide with the opening, but you want to be able to make it because there's a delay between when you ask for it and when you actually get it.
Yeah,
during the pre-order period.
I would imagine you would have to have it published on Findaway before you could submit it for a Chirp deal. But again, I don't know for sure.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't actually intentionally do audiobook pre-orders, but I do have enough buffer built into the last few weeks of production. I allow a lot more time for my editor than she needs, a lot more time for my proofreader and formatter, cover designer, so that by the time Nick records it and uploads it, I'm still a month away from release. So I usually get a couple of weeks of pre-order and a simultaneous release. But to be able to expand that and go from just a couple of weeks to 5 months of audiobook pre-order, even with the audiobook, the audio files not actually uploaded, would be the biggest game changer the industry could come up with.
It's a great idea. Absolutely. I think it's a really smart idea. It'd be fun.
You would have, you could, I mean, in the metadata, you could have an estimated running time in the same way that you have page numbers on pre-orders for ebooks that are absolute garbage, that they're not real.
Yeah.
You could have an estimated running time based on word count and average narration speed.
And then it would update once it's
yeah, and it
uploaded.
probably would only be off by 15 to 20 minutes, depending on the narrator.
Yeah, I love the idea. It's something for us to take to our partners and see what their appetite is for it. You know, it's not something I can just like kind of snap my fingers and say, okay, now I'm going to do, because they're expecting all of our metadata to come in a certain way. So these kind of things it's a little bit like, you know, moving mountains sometimes, but the things like this, these are great ideas that can absolutely move the needle on sales and help the whole industry. They're good things to do for sure.
Yeah, it makes it doubly difficult because you're dealing with at least 5 major platforms, and they all have different submission requirements and different
Oh yeah.
Everything. And,
you upload those files once to us, but we repackage and bundle them and compress them and re-encode them a whole bunch of different ways to make them fit exactly what each retailer needs. It's a process, and there's a lot of software written around it. It would surprise you to see how complicated it is. you look at it, it's like, yeah, it's an audiobook distributor. Like, you take the files and you put them over here, right? It's a little more than that.
Where's your headquarters located? Because I'd like to come and see that.
Yeah, we're just outside of Cleveland, Ohio. And I've had quite a few authors come by and say they're in the area and reach out to me. So it's always fun taking people through, and they're always impressed with the operation. The tours nowadays would probably be a little less fun than they used to be, though, just because so much of Findaway is remote. And so you lose some of that magic of having everybody in the building being able to say, like, oh, here, this is the guy who used to like rip CDs from publishers and like turn those into digital formats. Like, there was a day where like the big publishers would send us the new CD and we'd have to rip it down, and that's how we'd get it in the catalog. So it's, there's a lot of fun like nostalgia and stories like that we kind of lose out on when the people aren't there to tell them firsthand. But yeah, if you're ever in the Cleveland area, Wayne, I'd love to have you over.
I might just make a trip up there just for that.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame add on there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's just south of there, 25 miles.
Yeah.
Let's see. I have a lot of stuff written down here, and I have lines through all of them except one.
Okay.
So a lot of people know about something called AudibleGate, and really, I guess what I want to ask is, I'm guessing with so many different distributors that Audible's not necessarily the only one that's having books returned. And do distributors have different rules? Do some of them, yes, they'll do a book return, but they won't pull the royalty back from the author. Other times they will. Do they apply it as a negative to the sale? How do they? How do returns work across the wider audiobook scape?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's tough to make a blanket statement when we have 43 partners that all have different integrations and stuff. But largely, the best blanket statement I can give you is largely the returns policy is up to the individual retailer. And if they do choose to return a book, it does normally revert the royalty to the author. And that's not normally broken out. So if you had 10 sales this month and 1 return, you would just see the net 9. That's not usually broken out. And that was how Audible was doing it too. What I will say, though, is that I have not seen any evidence of abuse on any of our partners. Like, no one is abusing this. No one is encouraging returns. Those kind of problems don't that's not happening in the wide ecosystem right there.
Okay. Let's see. Well, one last question on that. If a book ever was returned, though, in the Findaway reporting, you would never know.
That is true.
Okay.
Yeah. Just
figured I'd be fair, because there's certain other companies getting beat up on, and maybe rightly so. But they are, at least they tell you when something's been returned.
We have great relationships with all of our partners, and if we saw some fraud happening, if we saw some abuse happening, we would be working with them right away. We would be on the phone with them in minutes. We'd help them work through it. We'd help them see the light. Like that kind of abuse. There were stories about people on Audible like seeing a big percentage of their sales being returns, and that we're not seeing anything like that today. The most common big return is like metadata was wrong and a librarian accidentally bought like 100 copies instead of 1 or something like that. And the librarian's like, Baker and Taylor, please help me like undo this. And they're like, oh yeah, we can help you. That's the kind of scenario that we're seeing, not like widespread return books when you like them kind of thing.
And you have people who are having to call into customer service to get a return. They're not just pushing a button on an app.
Yeah, it's tough to keep up with all 42 apps, but I don't know of a single app that like has a 1 button return or makes it easy. Like, people to do a return would have to like call Nook or Apple or Google's customer service, or email them in and say like, hey, I didn't let this book didn't jive with me. Can I get my money back? And imagine if you do that like for every single book, they'd probably be like, hey, that's enough, right? Like, they want to keep the customers happy. You want to have good customer service. If somebody truly doesn't like the book or didn't understand what they were buying, you want to, as a platform, you want to have, the freedom to be able to do that and make people whole. But you don't want to abuse that system. And we would let you know if anybody was abusing that system.
Cool. Don Rich asked a question on YouTube, but he's deleted it.
Oh. No,
but I remember what it was.
Oh boy, the forbidden question.
I know it's an impossible answer, but I'm going to ask it for him anyway. Do you see a time when all the platforms will become standardized to where everybody does things exactly the same?
No.
Yeah, that's the answer I think.
No, I don't think so. I think I don't see that in the cards.
No, that would be who are they going to follow? Is Barnes and Noble going to bend to Audible, or is Audible going to bend to Google?
Yeah, and what's the incentive for any of them to change?
There is none.
There is none. It's going to take a lot of time and engineering work and money to change something that they're already doing. There'd have to be a really good reason why they would all change. I don't see those incentives aligning across the board.
Yeah.
Chris Niles asks, do you see a time when sales and royalty reporting for authors will improve on Findaway dashboard?
So I'm going to assume that he's talking about the real-time dashboard. I'm sorry. I assume she's talking about the real-time dashboard, which, we have 43 partners. We have different levels of integration with each. And there's certain business models that are just impossible to report real-time or even estimate real-time.
I can understand that. That's the same with scribe count.
Yeah.
I'm wide, and certain distributors are a little bit faster or slower than others. Of course, Amazon, they update every 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Barnes and Noble reports yesterday's today. Apple reports a day and a half ago. Google sometime last week, maybe.
It's all over the place, right? So
yeah.
So we've built this tool that is trying to give you a picture, but it's the data inputs that we have are just not enough to give you the full picture. Most of the retail a la carte partners are really tightly integrated with us, and we can get you at least daily reporting. Pretty reliable for most of them. See all the asterisks I have to put on there. But for example, a Chirp sale will show up in 30 seconds. Like you do a sale on Chirp and it is there in 30 seconds. But Apple gives us daily, and the daily feed is actually a different data feed from the monthly feed, the official one. And those don't always match up. So we have to take the daily feed for a little bit, and then we have to replace it and back those out when the official ones come in. And so there's a lot of moving parts on there. And then we have some business models like the subscription business model, like Scribd or Beak, for example, where your payout is dependent on the subscription revenue from the last month over the course of those 30 days, and then your share of minutes listened over those 30 days in proportion to all of the minutes listened. Those things can't be calculated until the end of or at least we don't get the reporting until the end of the month. Maybe there's some estimation that you could have, like, yeah, we expect a linear subscription rate and blah, blah, blah. But like all of those sales, the Beak and the Chirp, the Beak and the Scribd sales and all of the subscription sales, those are all going to dump on one day of the month because they didn't actually have like a transaction date, right? It was something for the entire period. And then ACX doesn't tell us September's sales until the last day of October, which is after I've already paid you for the rest of your September sales. So there's a whole bunch of things that we're trying to smooth out. And I understand it's frustrating. It has gotten better on a lot of retailers. But it's probably like the last one. Is there ever going to be like standardized across the board daily sales reporting? No, I don't think there is. That tool that we've provided is trying to, my intention of providing that tool, because when we launched, we didn't have anything. It's a newer tool, I just want to give you trend level data. Are you going up? Are you going down? You don't have the full picture. Please don't use it for your taxes. Don't rely on the dollars in there. But it's trying to give you a snapshot to give you the information that we do have available to us. Even when we know it's not great data, it's better than no data.
It's not great on a daily basis, but usually by the second or third of the month, last month's is settled down and it's right on money.
Yes. Yep.
But it because all the different platforms report different times.
So by the time your official sales report
comes out, nailing Jello to the wall.
Yes. By the time your official numbers come out, all of that data is backfilled into that real sales tool as well. So the further back you go, the more accurate it is.
Okay, let me see. Chris now says it would be nice to see stacked bar graphs by title or pie charts by vendor, whatever data is available.
Yeah, I'll take that feedback back to the team. I will say you can export everything that you see in there as a CSV. So if you want to kind of build your own charts and stuff, you're more than welcome to.
I know you're working with Randall with Scribe Count to find a way reporting onto Scribe Count. And that's.
Oh, yep. Nick, are you with me? It seems like
I'm still here.
Okay.
Oh, did I drop out?
There he is.
Okay.
Oh,
you dropped out right at the pivotal question point.
With Scribe Count, I know Randall's been working with y'all to include Scribe Count reporting data on or to
find
show
a way in Scribe Count.
Find a way data on Scribe Count. And from what I've heard from Randall, it's working pretty good.
Yeah, I would love for the data to be in Scribe Count. I've talked to Randall a couple times, and I'd love to make it happen. We just have to get the technology pieces all worked out.
Yeah, they're growing by leaps and bounds too. They're introducing all kinds of new stuff and new toys and everything. It's a lot of fun to watch.
They've got a sharp team over there for sure.
Are you going to be coming to NINC?
I am coming to NINC. I'm excited about it.
Oh,
I am gonna
awesome.
and we have some big stuff coming with us tonight. Will both of you be there?
I'll
be there. Nick.
So just Wayne.
Oh, you're not coming?
No, I gotta get my next book out.
We have a big promotion that we're running at NINC that I can only tease right now. It's just for NINC attendees, but I'm really excited about NINC this year. I have not been to an author conference in 2 years, probably. 20 Books 2019 was probably the last one that I went to. And I can't wait to see people in person, and it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of first drinks on me.
Thank you.
Will you have cool swag?
We're doing something a little different this year. So it's gonna be a big splash, but it's not gonna be a big splash with swag like we did last time.
Like 2 years ago.
Yeah, we don't like to do the same thing twice. We like to keep it fresh, and we don't want to get
pretty cool.
Yeah, those were great. But we're doing something very different and much bigger this year. That's all I'll say.
Are you doing any kind of presentation or?
Yeah, Saturday morning I will be. I think it's 9:30 to 10:30 Saturday morning. I'm going to be talking about audiobooks and doing some pretty advanced audiobook marketing tactics. Talking about Marketplace, talking about the promotion, the big thing that we're doing. And yeah, the crowd's always fun. I can't wait to be there.
Yeah, I signed up to be your introducer or whatever it is.
Oh, you're introducing me. You got to introduce me as
don't know.
Nick, you know my
Nick,
title.
You volunteered to do 5, and they pick one.
Well, I hope it's you so that you can introduce me as the first 2-time attendee or 2-time panelist on the Talk Right podcast. I want that to be my claim to fame. If you're introducing
me. There you go.
Well, I have a question here. We got about 5 minutes left here. You mentioned marketing tactics, and I have people, because I've been narrating for so long, authors will come to me and say, how do I market my audiobook? And I'm like, I don't have any idea. There's a few places to do things, and you could do Facebook ads, but are there is this something Findaway would consider? With ebooks, we have all sorts of options to run promotions and such. But with audiobooks, there's something called Audiobook Thicket. But
yeah. There's a. Oh man, Nick, can we have another hour? This is too much for me to slam into 4 minutes at the end.
Give us some quick highlights, because people might take this and go run with it.
Yeah, I mean, there's too much to squeeze into a little thing, and there's no magic bullet. Everybody's kind of looking for the magic bullet from me, and it just doesn't exist. It's time, effort, grind, and hard work, and finding where the attention is, and cultivating attention. And I think more and more it's getting a reputation with your readers of over delivering. Like that, having this reputation and this mantra that you are always going to over deliver for them, and treating your readers like a community is one of the big trends that I've seen in the last couple years. And there's more and more tools to help with that. There's more and more platforms to help, attract new readers, like Audio Thicket, which is kind of like a chirp. And there's more tools like that popping up all the time. And BookFunnel now is doing audiobooks, and they have some great tools around marketing with that are fantastic. And you guys probably know Damon, and most of your audience probably knows Damon, like larger than life character. He's amazing. He loves the industry so much. That guy's going to build some amazing stuff.
He can talk faster than anybody I've ever met.
And he can sing better than anybody in the industry.
He puts 3 hours of content in a 1 hour session.
His passion shows through in everything that he does, right? And he's going to build great tools. So he has audiobook stuff right now that has been out for, I think, over a year now. And it's great. There's tools all over the place. But the overarching thing that I want authors to really think about is, how do you treat your readers as a community, and you are leading that community, and you are giving to that community. And then when you have a new book, you will reap the rewards of that. But really thinking holistically and think long-term, like when you have a social presence and every single one of your posts, or even 50% of your posts are buy my book, my new book is out. Like that's not the way to go. You're just shouting your megaphone into the void at that point. What is the value that you're giving to people? How are you engaging with them and making them feel like they're part of something bigger than just you hawking your book at them? That's where the real magic happens. So we're going to be talking about a lot more of that in depth at NINC. And then maybe I'll be the first 3-time panelist if you guys want to do a separate one just on audiobook marketing sometime next year, maybe, that we can work that out.
That might happen. I mean, we're not against having repeats. That's a gimme.
Awesome. But, well, I always love chatting with you guys,
especially when you got new stuff.
Yes,
you bring in new stuff, we'll bring you back.
We will keep building. Going back to Marketplace for a minute. I think Marketplace it's a big launch. It's going to be a game changer, but it's also just the beginning for us. This is something that we are going to be building on top of for years. I have big plans on where I want Marketplace to go, and how I want us to like really take that throne and be the center of the audiobook world, and like build this for everybody. It doesn't make any sense for there to be a center of the audiobook world that helps one single retailer, right? ACX helps Audible. It's their platform. When you move your book to us and we succeed, we bring the entire audiobook space up with us. We are in it for the whole industry, not a single retailer.
Including Audible.
Including Audible. Absolutely. Yeah. Look, I've never in my life told somebody not to sell their book on Audible. They're an important component. What I do tell them is don't sell exclusively on Audible, but like your book should be there. Readers are there and they're looking for them, and it would be silly not to be there. Obviously, there are some circumstances where you might not want to be there, and that's totally fine. But yeah, no shade thrown at Audible at all.
Now, Nick's going to be re-recording my first 2 books in November, right?
Well, I would love to have you guys do it on Marketplace.
I think that would be a really cool test drive.
We could do. I mean, part of the point is he's got, how many books do you have across the 2 series? 28, 29?
20, soon to be 28.
Wow.
So we're thinking it would be madness not to have book 1 and book 2 of the largest of the series not widely available, and chirp the heck out of it.
I agree.
Even if some of the other books are still with ACX initially, but taking them all wide eventually, but certainly starting with the 2nd edition re-records.
Are you re-recording to go around the royalty share, or what's the situation with books 1 and 2?
Wayne can tell you.
They're not brand new. They're 2 years old, but they're 2nd editions. And I wrote them back in 2013, 2014, when I didn't have a clue what I was doing. So I went back and updated them, moved things around, added more content, added another full chapter to one of them, and released them as second editions. And they've done great. as far as ebooks and paperbacks. And of course, the audiobooks are still the old original audiobooks.
Gotcha.
And so
you're re-recording because of the underlying content, not because of the right situation or the narration.
No. Oh, well, I'm the narrator and he paid me per finished hour. So it's moot.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And the time is long past. He can make them wide anytime he wants.
Gotcha.
Yeah. They're
you just want them to be fresh.
They're both 7 years old now.
Okay. Gotcha.
Actually,
that's not a situation that I hear too often. A lot of times the re-records are re-records are because something's locked up in royalty share and they can't get it out.
No, Wayne told me he likes them better, and WhisperSync is not to be ignored. WhisperSync is quite effective, and right now they're not WhisperSynced because what I recorded is not what's for sale as the ebook.
Interesting. Yeah.
And that WhisperSync, it comes in really big when you have a book bubble on the first in series. The audiobook always sells in the hundreds the same day because people have the ebook. They bought it for 99 cents. Now they can get the audiobook for $4.99 or $5.99 or whatever it is.
Yeah, it varies by book, but it's nice. It's a nice little. You can get somebody to buy your book twice. That's a good day.
Well, we're in overtime here, and I smell dinner.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me on. It's always so much fun to talk to you. You always have such great questions, and thanks to your audience for listening to me twice now.
And thanks for being on here with us.
Yeah.
And I'd also like to thank our sponsors, Pirate Radio. I'm drawing a blank.
TropicalAuthors.com.
Tropical Authors. Yeah. And Aurora Publicity and Down Island Press. Usually I have all that in front of me, but I don't want to touch the screen because it might just explode. But anyway, thank you for being on with us, Will. It's always a pleasure. And we'll see you at the Tiki Bar.
Sounds great.